Joining me now to talk about that is Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, a member of the Appropriations, Foreign Relations, and Rules Committees, and soon to be ranking member of the Budget Committee. Senator Merkley, what's your reaction to what's happening in the House, and do you see a way out of this mess?
Well, the mess last night was fascinating, Andrea, because they made a bad bill even worse. And they did things like, for example, taking out the reforms of the pharmacy benefit managers, which have been an outrageous impact on running up the price of drugs. They took out $190 million for child cancer research. And they took out the ban on sensitive investments in China. Those are the types of investments in AI, in quantum mechanics, in semiconductor production that are key to our security competition with China. So that was, I'm not at all surprised that 38 Republicans voted against it. But now we are stuck waiting for the House to decide how it's going to proceed. And we're hearing, as you've been hearing, about splitting the bill into three pieces. But what's really important is a piece that they added in the bill yesterday, which was a deficit debt two-year holiday so that Republicans could run up tax breaks for the richest Americans and biggest corporations. That is absolutely cannot be part of this bill.
Now, that seemed to be a poison pill for sure. So if they take that out, is there possible to come up with a compromise? Do you think your Democratic colleagues would vote for something on the House side that doesn't have some of the other components that you just mentioned, which I know are top priorities?
Yes, there's a deal to be made. Of course, the original bill was a result of this is important to you, this is important to us, this is important to our constituents. You may have different constituents. So there is probably a set of trade-offs that can come out to be issues to be delegated, if you will, to next year. That's the art of negotiation. But at the heart of it, that poison pill cannot be there. And other key things like disaster relief, it's essential that we get that done. And it's essential that we not shut down the government.
Do you consider the Baltimore Harbor, the bridge reconstruction, part of disaster relief? The Francis Scott Key Bridge?
Well, it's a key part of our national infrastructure. We're a nation that when each individual state has something disastrous occur, and sometimes it's a natural disaster, sometimes a human-made disaster like the bridge being taken out, we respond and help out. So if we're helping out all the states around the country, we absolutely should be funding the restoration of that bridge.
Now, you're also going to be the ranking member. Well, you're going to be the ranking member on budget, but you're also on Rules Committee, which has a lot to say about the inauguration. If there is a shutdown, would organizing the inaugural, ceremonies, if this goes that far, those would be essential workers, right? The construction that we're seeing now here in Washington on the stands, obviously the security. There's a lot of flexibility in how to determine what's essential and what's not, correct?
That's right. It's a very soft definition, and essentially it's what the government decides is essential. We do know that in a previous shutdown, some 800,000 people were furloughed, so a lot of people do lose their jobs. Other things are absolutely essential, like TSA workers or border control workers, so on and so forth, our military, all of them being folks who would be working without pay. But in terms, I hadn't heard the question about the inauguration. I know there's a lot of preparation being done on the grounds here by contractors employed by the government. I would think preparing for the inauguration is essential to our democracy. Would proceed, but it's a judgment call as to how that happens. And of course, there's a lot being done through private donations to the President's Fund for the inauguration.
And what about January 6th? The counting of the electoral votes, making it all official. What about congressional action if the government were shut down?
We will absolutely be here. We will be working, doing the people's work. And nothing is more important than the transfer of power in a democracy. Protecting the ballot box, which we're not doing as good a job as we need to do, and the peaceful transfer of power. So no, we will be here making it happen.
Senator Jeff Merkley, wishing you a happy holiday and no shutdown.
And a happy holiday to you. Take care.
Coming up with a compromise. Thank you.